So joining us right now by Zoom is Craig Latimer, Hillsborough County's Supervisor of Elections. Welcome back to WMNF's Tuesday Cafe, Greg.
Thank you. Great to be here.
I'm really glad you could join me. Thanks so much. So first, maybe let's start with what we know about how turnout is going so far for this election. What do we know about who has voted and how they voted?
Yeah, so we've had some turnout that's been pretty equivalent to the 2018 election. Our early vote was a little bit less. Our vote by mail was a little bit more. And so far today, right now as we speak, we've had 41,298 people have taken advantage of election day. So that's that's a pretty good amount. Total, we've had just almost a 40% turnout. We're just under 40% total right now. We had 131,000 that voted early, 189,000 that so far voted by mail. We're still getting vote by mail ballots in because they have till 7 p.m. tonight to get those in.
And what do we know about how the parties have voted, especially in Hillsborough? What do you have a handle on who has turned in ballots by party?
I can tell you that actually, yes. Hold on a second. So vote by mail, we've had 84,000 plus Democratic ballots, 63,000 plus Republican ballots, and 41,500 no party affiliation and other minor parties. And then early vote, we've had 45,000 Democrats, almost 60,000 Republicans, 26,400 NPAs and other parties. And today so far, we've had 10,700 Democrats vote, 20,900 Republicans, and 9,500 NPA and others. And that information is on our website. That's no big secret. So go to my website, votehillsborough.gov, click on the 2022 general election, and then you can get the unofficial election results.
I want to remind people that we're speaking with Craig Latimer, Hillsborough County's Supervisor of Elections on 2022's Election Day, November 8th. You're listening to WMNF's Tuesday Cafe. A moment ago, Craig, you said that people were still turning in their mail ballots. So what's the rule for mail ballots? If someone dropped it in the mail last week and you haven't gotten it yet, when do you need to receive it? And maybe the big question is, if someone still has their mail ballot in their hands, what should they do?
Yeah, great question. So a vote by mail ballot must be in my office by 7 p.m. tonight, election day. If you mailed it a couple of days ago, go on my website and track that ballot, see if it's arrived back at our office yet. If it hasn't, I would urge you to go to your polling site in the precinct that you reside in and vote. If you still have that vote by mail ballot, you either have to turn it into one of my 4 offices today, or if you go to an election day site, you can surrender that ballot and vote in person. What you cannot do is you cannot drop a vote by mail ballot at a election day polling site because they have no way to get those in my office by 7 p.m.
You know, I want to follow up on one thing you mentioned. You said that if someone has voted and they mailed their ballot in already, maybe last week or something, but it hasn't shown up as tallied on your website, they should go to their precinct and vote. My guess is they're not going to be able to, it'll show that they've already voted, or at least that they have a mail ballot. What happens? Do they get to vote a regular ballot, or do they have to vote provisionally?
So another great question. Thank you, Sean. Yes. If we haven't received their ballot, there's going to be no block on it. They can go ahead and vote a regular ballot at a polling site. If we've received that ballot, once that ballot hits my office, it's considered cast. So they would be blocked from voting. If they insist on voting, they'd have to vote a provisional ballot, but we've got their vote by mail ballot, so it shouldn't be an issue. Having said that too, if there's ever any question, ask to vote a provisional ballot. Some people think provisional ballots are bad things, and they're not. It's like an insurance policy because it's going to give my office more time to research and ascertain that, somebody is a registered voter, they're voting in the right location, they haven't voted before. So always take advantage of that provisional ballot.
Is one possibility for why you would only be able to get a provisional ballot just simply you showed up in the wrong precinct? Perhaps maybe your precinct changed and so they can't give you that ballot for that precinct, and you, in that case, you would vote provisionally if you don't want to seek out your main ballot location.
And we encourage people to go to the correct polling site because the law is very specific on that. You must vote in the polling site and the precinct you're assigned to on election day. You can't just go anywhere. The other thing is people will show up without identification. And you can vote a provisional ballot. You sign that envelope. The first thing we do is compare that signature on the envelope to signatures we have on file. They match. The voter nothing else has to be done by the voter.
I want to remind people that we're speaking with Craig Latimer, Hillsborough County's Supervisor of Elections on Election Day 2022. This is WMNF's Tuesday Cafe. I'm Sean Kinane. You do have to bring an ID to the polls in Florida. What kinds of IDs are acceptable?
Yeah, so there's 12 acceptable forms of photo and signature ID. The easiest ones are a driver's license or a Florida ID card. And if you don't have either one of those, then go to my website, votehillsborough.gov, and you can look up the other 10 acceptable forms of identification.
Now, there's been some across the country, maybe in Arizona especially, there's been some instances where self-identified poll watchers are causing trouble for voters, are trying to intimidate voters. I'll go ahead and say that. Have we encountered any threats of that, or actually any actual incidents of voter intimidation or possible intimidation in Hillsborough County?
We have had none in Hillsborough County, and throughout the state. We have some really good laws around that. Poll watchers, as they're termed, have to be a registered voter in the county that they're watching in. They then have to be authorized by a candidate or the party. You can't just show up and say, I want to be a poll watcher. So you have to be authorized. We verify that you are a registered voter in our county, and then we issue credentials to you. When the poll watcher's inside that polling site, they're not allowed to talk to voters. The only person they're allowed to talk to is the clerk, who is the person in charge of that polling site. So I think we've got some good laws around that. And then, of course, add to that the 150-foot no solicitation zone around voting sites. That it sets back people that are going to be campaigners and anybody that wants to holler at people. It puts them back a ways, and the voters should have a clear egress to get in and out.
All right, so that's good news for people in Hillsborough County. So far, no mention of voter intimidation. What about any other troubles at the polls? Were all of the precincts able to open at 7 this morning, or have there been any other glitches so far?
No, we were open at 7 o'clock, ready to go. We had some great turnout. We just had people waiting to vote, which is not unusual on election day. We have a little rush. At 7 o'clock when they open. We'll have another one at noontime at lunch there when people come again. And then in the evening, about 5 o'clock, it'll start to go up again. So if you haven't voted yet, get out now, and get out at 2 o'clock, and you probably won't have any lines and any wait.
I have a question that came in from an emailer. This is John in Port Richey, which is not in Hillsborough County, but it's a question that's general enough that I think that you might be able to answer it. Is there a way to check national historical data on which party voted by mail in each of the elections?
I'm sure it's out there somewhere. I certainly don't have that at my fingertips. I know that, we report that at the county level at the end of the election because we have to by law, and we have to report it by precinct and by method is what we call it. We do have historical data on our website, though. You can go back and look at, again, Hillsborough County, but not nationally. I'm not aware of that. And I think you can go to the state and you can get the state, but again, I don't know about the national.
And the state would be on the Division of Elections website, which is part of the Secretary of State's office. So you can just search Florida Division of Elections on the web to find out all sorts of state information about voters and voting and candidates.
Correct.
I want to remind people that our guest is Craig Latimer, Hillsborough County's Supervisor of Elections, and we're talking about Election 2022, which is today is the last day to vote. So if you haven't voted, please go out and vote. If you still have a mail ballot, it's best for you to go to your precinct and to either to turn it in there and get a new ballot, or to turn it in at the Supervisor of Elections office. You can turn in your mail ballot today. Don't drop it in the mail. So Craig, the vote counting process has been under scrutiny since the 2020 election, and well before that, of course, even way back to 2000, as people remember in Florida. Can we trust the vote counting process in Hillsborough County and in Florida?
Absolutely. Before every election, every county in this state has to conduct what's called a public logic and accuracy test. That's where we take a random sample of our tabulators and all of the high-speed tabulators that we use for vote by mail, and we run what's called a test deck through them. The logic is that it can see every single spot on that ballot where a vote might be cast. And accuracy, of course, is does it count correctly? And it does. We know what the outcome should be. It matches that. Then after the election, every single county in this state has to conduct a post-election audit. You can do that one of two ways. You can have your canvassing board randomly select a race and randomly select precincts, and then you'd go find all the ballots, vote by mail, early vote, election day, for that race, and you'd sit down and hand count them. That can be a daunting task, especially in a large county. If they happen to pull a countywide race and some big precincts, you could end up literally with thousands and thousands and thousands of ballots. The other way you can conduct that post-election audit is electronic audit system. And that's what I do. So we have a system that's certified by the state. And basically, it's another type of tabulation system, but not the same one we already used. I'm required to put 20% of my precinct ballots through those electronic audit machines. I put 100% through them. Every single ballot that's tabulated in my county goes through this audit system so that we can once again ensure that these tabulators counted correctly. And I can tell you that they do.
What's the rate been in the past? How close has the audit been to the actual results?
Within 1 or 2 votes. And the reason for that is one might see it as an overvote and the other might see it as a vote. So that would be the difference you had. And, with this audit system that we have, we can actually go in and look at each ballot. We can look at each oval on there and see, how it's filled in. So it's a pretty fantastic system.
Do we expect results tonight, or will there be a delay in counting all of the votes? And if there is a delay, does that indicate that there's a problem?
Yeah, thank you. So in Florida, shortly after 7 o'clock, by law, all the supervisors will begin to release all of the early vote totals, because we had to upload those by law yesterday, and all the vote by mail we have up to that point. So we will be releasing that shortly after 7. Then the precincts will start to come in. And then any more vote by mail that we had, because you've got till 7 p.m. to get that here, we'll process those. Now, let me caution this. We may not know results for several days, because we have people that are going to be able to cure their signature. We have people that have a provisional ballot that may be counted. So we'll be adding more votes. Plus, we also have to wait 10 days. We can accept an overseas military ballot as long as it's postmarked by election day. Everything that we report in the first 7 days is going to be unofficial results. It's unofficial until it's certified by the canvassing board, and that's done about the 10th day after all these other ballots are in. The canvassing board then will certify the official results. But nationwide, we may not know answers for a couple of days or weeks even, because I know some states, they don't even begin counting their vote by mail ballots and processing them until election day. Well, I think I mentioned to you before that, we've had 190,000 vote by mail ballots. I can't imagine trying to just start that this morning, and it wouldn't be finished tonight, that's for sure. So there's going to be these results that continue to come in, and we probably aren't going to know what the balance of Congress is going to be tonight. That's for sure.
And that doesn't necessarily mean that there's a problem with the voting systems.
Not at all. Not at all. It's a matter of putting all this together, getting everything tabulated, auditing everything and getting the results out.
Earlier you mentioned that you're going to start releasing results at 7 o'clock, and that's 7 o'clock Eastern, but some Florida towns are in the central time zone. Is there a delay in reporting for statewide offices?
The state will not start providing their results until after the 8 p.m., which would be the 7 p.m. Central time. You're 100% correct about that. The counties do, though. The way the law is written, it says that that's when I have to do it. So the state, like I said, though, they will not release their numbers that they've got until after 7 or till 8 o'clock.
So if you want to find out who's leading in the governor's race or the U.S. Senate race, don't go to the state website, go to the local county elections websites and get your calculator out.
Yeah, yeah, and go to every single website too. That's going to be
Exactly.
annoying. You might be better off just waiting until 8 o'clock because it'd probably take you an hour to do all that.
Well, I can tell you're not a reporter on election night because that sounds like a lot of the election nights for me. But I want to remind people that Craig Latimer is Hillsborough County Supervisor of Elections, and this is Election Day. And so we're talking about, in the last couple minutes that we have here, we're talking about what we know about elections in Hillsborough County and in Florida. And I got a question here from Bubba who says, how do we keep cyber ninjas out of our elections? I don't trust those guys, super sketchy. So I think what Bubba's getting at is that, everything is connected to the internet, it seems, and that it might be possible for a hacker to get into the election system. What can you tell us about Florida and Hillsborough County's election systems and how close they're connected to the internet and how vulnerable they may or may not be to cyber hacking?
Yeah, so another good question, and I'll take it nationwide first. That's one of the beauties of our system. In this country, we've got over 10,000 jurisdictions that conduct elections today, and they're not connected to each other. I'm not connected to Pinellas County. I'm not connected to Pasco County. We're not connected to the internet. By law, my election management server is an air-gapped system not connected to the internet or my intranet. Again, I've said earlier about unofficial results. And the one thing I like to always point out is that in Florida, we vote on paper and you can't hack paper. We can always go back and recreate an election. We've got a lot of stringent practices in place. The state works very hard with all the supervisors around the state to make sure that not only our cyber is healthy and good, but also our physical security with cameras and access points and things like that. But the biggest thing is that my election management software is not connected to the internet. Now, the voter rolls are public record. We had a thing in one of the last elections where somebody was sending stuff out to people and they thought that somebody had hacked the voter rolls. You don't have to hack them. All you have to do is ask for it. You get it. It's public record. Again, and the voter rolls are not connected to the tabulation system too. These are two separate systems.
Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on WMNF's Tuesday Cafe today on Election Day, Craig.
Thank you, Sean. Have a good day.
Thank you, too. Craig Latimer is Hillsborough County Supervisor of Elections. You're listening to WMNF's Tuesday Cafe.